So far, every round of Season 3 has been held in a different country, and that trend continues today. Our arrival at Misano also means we'll add a new track to the extensive list of circuits this series has been to. Will the first time in this coastal town give us thrills? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Misano is probably more well known for motorcycle racing, so why don't we head down for our track guide? Welcome to Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli. With the track situated just a couple kilometers away from the Adriatic Sea, this beach town venue is nestled into one of the most beautiful settings. Here on iRacing, it comes with 5 layouts that range between only 6 turns over a single kilometer to the Grand Prix circuit, which covers over 4 kilometers and 16 turns. A plethora of open-wheel, GT, and touring car series visit to compete, but its real claim to fame has mainly been motorcycles. Regardless, it's well suited to 4 wheels and truly keeps drivers on their toes. The sweeping Quercia invites drivers to try a pass, but it allows more speed through the corner than you'd anticipate. And Tramonto brings its own struggles. A kinked entry makes it difficult to nail, and yet the exit is perhaps more important. It leads you onto the incredibly long back portion of the track. I'd call it a straight, but you fly through Curvone and keep your foot down all the way through 12 until finally turn 13 scares you into slowing down. And you'll definitely want to, because the hairpin of Caro comes up fast. Having been around since the early 70s, the track has been reconfigured multiple times. In fact, it's even changed direction and gone from counterclockwise to its current clockwise configuration. Whether you're a beachgoer who needs their fix of speed or a race fan that wants a seaside vacation with their race day, Misano is a track that won't disappoint. Well, as you can see, this track puts on a pretty good show, but like I said, Joey, first time for the Lotus 49s to come here, so we have some question marks.
Yeah, and I think it's all going to be about power down as we look at the track map. Misano, 16 turns at 2.61 miles or 4.2 kilometers, and it's a lot of turns packed into a 2.6 mile course, and specifically slower corners down there. Look at Rio, Tramonto, Caro. Those are all corners that you're going to have to be down into second gear, and we know that the tires and the suspension on these cars, you have to be extremely careful with that right foot. So not only on the corner exits, where it's incredibly important to get the power down, but also going into the corners, you have to be extremely careful and trying to rotate these cars around, not prevent, or I should say prevent too much front lockup, but I honestly think the name of the game, not putting your foot down too fast here at Misano.
Exactly. So driver's going to have to be very careful about that as we take a look at the championship. Now, Seb Tixier and Jorge Nieva seem to be the ones to watch out for this season. Now, that's not any huge surprise, but Jorge Nieva has been getting closer and closer, more consistent with victories and racing up front, that you have to wonder, is this going to be his season? Marco Salgado is sitting in third, very close in a fight with Togo Hisada, who's been a bit hot and cold. He's often very fast, but seems to be a bit accident prone lately, unfortunately getting tangled up. He's actually in a tie with Rossi there for that 4th position. With it being so early, you can see that it's still quite tight throughout the fields. But that's just the F1 standings. We have the sort of amateur championship, Joey, in the F2.
Check out how close this is between the top 4 drivers. Jan Steffen currently leading the way with 155 points, but Kirk Lapper just a single point back. Thomas Willershausen 2 points back. Jonathan Jourdain 4 points back. And even then, this next group, Tomas Tuba, he's only 13 points back. And with the amount of points given away here in every single race, especially the top split, any one of these can be shaken up. Also, Andres Bruno, Roberto Pingrazzi, John Van Dorn, Ellen Graham, and Jem Matson all in the top 10 as well.
Of course, we also have the Cup of Nations in this series, and Spain is leading Singapore, as you'd expect, those two quite tight up at the top. The UK trailing just behind. Both the UK and the US often sees a lot of drivers participating, so you tend to see them up into the top 5. Not always, though. The Netherlands and Japan rounding out your top 6, separated by a single point between them. Watch for Japan to start climbing forward because of Togo Hisata's contributions if he can keep this one up. Let's also go through today's race details, Joey, in case our viewers haven't watched before.
The Grand Prix Legend Series, we're here for round 5 of 12. Going to be doing 21 laps here at Misano. And as is every week, it's an open setup. So if you're not really happy with how the car drives, you can go and tweak and tune on all of those suspension settings. Go and join the community. They love handing out the fast stuff over there. No spare car, so if you pick up any damage, you have to live with it throughout the rest of the race. A drive-through penalty at 17x, a disqualification at 25x, but I say it every single week here with the open-wheel cars, especially the vintage cars. It's all about not hitting your buddies out there on the racetrack. The cleaner you can keep it, the more forward you'll go.
Yeah, sometimes that's easier said than done in these cars as well. So hard to race side by side, but there's a lot of respect shown between the competitors. We are right down to the end of qualifying. Now, Jorge Nieva has not set a time yet. I don't see a deleted lap, so he should have both of them as long as he can get around before we get down to the about a minute and a half to go, which does look like he's going to get there. This is him on screen right now. Let's see what this first lap holds for actually the driver with the highest I rating, interestingly. Jorge Nieva really showing up. 137.5. That's good enough for 4th. That's representative, Joey, but I think he'll want more.
I like this method in qualifying because what Jorge is doing is he's let everybody else go out there and put their time on the standing sheet. So now when he does his lap, he does obviously not got his relative, right? There's nobody out there on the track with him, but he's kind of got the carrot to chase. He knows how fast everybody's going, so it's a little bit like a reference. I actually prefer it. Go out there and turn your qualifying lap at the end. You know how hard you have to push or how easy you can actually take it.
Speaking of pushing, look at how much he's taking on the insides and outsides of corners, really bringing it right up to the limit. And look at him struggle to get the power down on top of things. This is one of those modern racetracks that has lots of paved runoff, which I kind of wonder how easy is it going to be to trip those 1x incident limits.
I think it's going to be the seesaw battle of how quick can you put your right foot down to put the power down, or how much do you let the car drift out and potentially pick up those incident points. But you're right, you look at the off tracks everywhere, there's plenty of room to go way out there in case there's an incident right in front of you. But yeah, just keep an eye on those incidents as you kind of continue to rack up the laps today.
You only get 17 of them before you find yourself with a penalty. All the way out to the curbs here for Jorge Nieva. Togo Hisata holds the provisional pole, but Willie Forever, 36.8, is going to keep Togo up at the top. Jorge, though, jumps up into 3rd ahead of Nicola Kaki, racing at one of his home circuits. Massa's still out there, but with no seconds left, actually, right now. That is going to be it for our qualifying. The grid has been set. And while it isn't our largest field, it's going to keep the drivers on their toes on such a short lap with Hisata on the pole position over Seb Tixier starting next to him. Jorge Nieva, as I mentioned, in 3rd with Kaki next to him in P4. Salgado starts 5th today. Gary Ho, excellent qualifying for him all the way up to P6. Then he's got Xavier Sanchez on the inside of the next row, followed by Steve Morris. Connor Tolman will be 9th, and Bjorn Ackerman rounds out your top 10.
Here in 11th place, we have Kurt Clapper, followed up with Matthew Maudsley next to him in 12th. Jan Steffen in 13th, with Roberto Pingrazzi in 14th. Jem Matson 15th, Tobias Harnvey 16th. Cam Porter lined up in the 17th spot with Robert Plumley next to him in 18th. Eugenio Massa in 19th. Jean Van Dorn in 20th, and a few more across the page here. 21st is Jonathan Jourdain. Tyler Mayer in 22nd, Alan Graham 23rd, and Thomas Willershausen will be rounding out the 24 cars.
The very first set of corners is going to be a chicane Del Parco for these drivers, so they're going to have to try and tiptoe their way through there without clattering over each other, especially with how wide these wheels stick out for them. We've got a high track temperature, 122 Fahrenheit, 50 Celsius. It is going to be slippery on this track surface. I think we're waiting on just one car to get on the grid, and then we are good to go. Otherwise, time will run out in the next 30 seconds if Tyson Meyer does not put himself up on the
Joe,
grid.
real fast, it already went up to 123, so it's rising. That track temperature is all the way around this racetrack. Remember, corner entry, middle, and exit.
There we go. Looks like he is out there ready to go. Lights are now up as the engines start to rev for round 5. Green flag is out. Toga Hisada doesn't go, I think, as quickly as he would have liked. Oh, but in the second phase, he starts to pick it up over Seb Tixier, who looked like he might be able to stick his nose in. They're going to stay 1, 2, 3 as they started from the grid behind. It's a lot of too wide, but it is very orderly.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Seb Tixier is going to pull an over-under on Togo Hisada, just casually going over onto the racing line, shows the nose. He's got the inside line. New leader, the number 6 car, Seb Tixier.
And behind him, Yeva just about snuck underneath Hisada as well, but he ran out of room as Hisada held up the momentum. Down to Quercia now. This has a lot more speed than you'd expect, a little bit of camber into this corner. It's also a bit of a wider hairpin as they all slow up into the left-hander. Now very single file throughout the field. Looks like Seb will hold on to the lead.
Yeah, that's just trying to get through lap number 1. Here comes Nieva poking the nose down in. Togo Hisada leaves the room at entry and then closes the door on Apex, and look at him be able to launch off of the corner, chase after our leader. That's exactly what he knew he had to do, get the top speed down the straightaway.
This is where things get scary along the backstretch down to Caro. The driver's going to have to slow up the car bit by bit as the corners tighten each and every time. Third place, Nieva under threat down to the inside. Nicola Kaki going to be able to get underneath him, and he is going to take that third place away. Car slips as he accelerates, though.
I know that Nicola Kaki is anxious now. He's in the 3rd place position. That's great track position so early on for him. He has a tremendous amount of speed, and now he's got the opportunity to go and chase our leaders.
We don't know what the passing opportunities are going to look like here. Some of these braking zones are quite tricky, Joey. I wonder how important that track position is going to be.
I think we're seeing a little bit of the experimenting on the opening lap, specifically out of the car that's been dropping. Jorge Nieva, he's been kind of diving it in on the corner entries, and sure, it looks good and aggressive in the first half of the corner, but it's really bit him in the back half of the corner and then down the straightaways where it counts. I firmly believe today is all going to be about getting through the beginning half and then putting the power down, getting the top speed down the straightaway.
Well, Tolman's getting a hurry up from Bjorn Ackerman, who just about pushed him through the corner. Thankfully, did not lose control of the car. The 16 regroups as there's a big slip up by Tolman coming down into Quercia. Once again, he gathers it up. Tyson Meyer, in the meantime, last one to put himself onto the grid, is not going to be the last one to finish at this rate. He's all the way up to 18th.
And we don't know this name very well, but looking at it, it's the number 4 board starting way back. I would expect Tyson Meyer to continue that charge as we're watching Gary Ho. He's right in the middle. He's chasing Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado. Then right behind Gary is Xavier Sanchez. Gary is in that purple car with the purple helmet there as he pokes the nose down inside. But these corners are so slow. I gotta imagine it's just a patience game today if you're behind the wheel.
Certainly. Also want to correct myself, Meyer up to 14th, actually, so he's even higher up than I anticipated. Gary Ho, in the meantime, with Sanchez very close behind as they fly down the main straight up towards Del Parco. He's going to leave the door open, and Sanchez is not going to need a second invitation. He's through.
Slide it back now as the track curves around to the left, and just a really slow technical section. And Joe, you were talking about where we're going to see passing. I'm seeing the difference just in drivers and the lines that they were taking. You were mentioning the potential incident limits. Now, I can't see when the incident limits pop up for each one of these drivers, but some of them not only taking advantage of the exit, but also the apex curves.
That could be a serious problem, especially the apex curves, as you can get a cut course penalty and have to give that time back pretty quickly. Togo Hisada here in second is not allowing Tixier to run away quite yet. It's about half a second between them. And credit to Kaki, he is still sitting in third, about also half a second behind the pair.
I think he's actually brought along Jorge Nieva with him, so you're right, 4 cars kind of all evenly spaced out here down the back straightaway. As we come up to more of this tricky brake zone here. The first lap, this is the area that Jorge Nieva really lost it, and that Cocky was able to slip underneath, but now that we're working lap number 3, it seems like the drivers have got those reference points down a little bit better.
Very different line between Hesada and Tixier coming out of Caro. Let's see if that'll give him an advantage at some point, or is Seb got it figured out a little bit better. They'll head down the main straight once again, completing lap 3. Still a long ways to go in this race. And let's not forget, like you mentioned, was it 2.5 miles around here with 24 cars? I'm willing to bet they'll hit lap traffic before it's done.
With how technical this racetrack is, yes. We're not just having straightaway after straightaway where we have big draft backs. These drivers are physically having to grab this steering wheel and really yank this race car around. As looks like Bjorn Ackerman is once again almost into the back of that number 12 car. And I think that Connor Tolman car has been a pretty good story so far here in this season in the Lotus 49s. Remember, he had that podium back at the Nordschleife. Then unfortunately last week he had a great race but ended up DNFing near the end of it, and here he is running inside the top 10. Honestly, I think he's putting up a great performance and improving every week.
Always love to see the new faces start to show up and progress through this series. It's such a unique car compared to everything else on iRacing. And already, well, I said we'd hit traffic. I didn't think it was going to be this lap. Jan Steven is letting them through. I think he must have had problems early and has returned to the track, as I see him having spent time in pit lane recently. So must have been some damage on the car as Jorge Nieva works his way around. In fact, around Cocky. When did he get by there?
Well, Jorge Nieva just drove by on the outside, Joe. I think we're seeing our first example of a slowdown penalty being applied to that red number 2 because he lost a ton of time. He was only about a half second behind Togo Hesada, lost all that track position, and then Nieva just simply drove around him.
You are probably right on that front. We got a replay. Let's take another look at things. This is actually the incident with Stefan that sent him down into pit lane. I'm going to assume there's some damage that's going to come out of this one. Somebody's sliding up the inside, and he tries to cut back. There's a car there and just absolutely plows into them.
That was the 24 of Roberto Pengrazi. Unfortunate there for that white number 17 as we jump up to a mid-pack battle here. Looks like Cam Porter looking down the inside. I believe that's actually Roberto Pengrazi, the car that we were just watching in that replay as well. So move Cam Porter in that number 11 up to 14th place.
Ooh, here comes Jim Matson way to the inside, maybe a little bit too much there, and comes back to the racing line a bit to cover off Robert Plumley, who sends it in a bit deep himself. Something has happened to Salgado as he is off track. This is over at Tramonto, and he's doing the right thing, backing it up to try and straighten it out before he gets it running.
I think if we end up getting a look at that one, Joe, I think it's just going to come down to the track temperature. We mentioned it on pre-grid, but we haven't said anything about it. The easiest way to see track temperature, look at how much these cars are sliding around, not only trying to put the power down, but also on the entries of the corner. Here it is. He's just simply going to go too fast, start a big slide, and not be able to save it.
Yeah. Car just said, I cannot do that, I'm sorry. And the 8 car eventually gets it moving. And where did he wind up? Looks like about 13th. Didn't hit anything, so he can carry on. But man, a lot of track position lost from that error.
This is our lead battle right here. Togo Hesada still giving chase to Seb Tixier. And last week, if y'all remember, it was a Sunday race, and unfortunately, it was another driver that kind of walked away from Togo Hesada. He had a little bit of a lonely race, so I think Togo right now, not Toto Wolff, but Togo Hesada is definitely relishing this opportunity for another race win.
And I love the contrast that we have here. Seb Tixier, I think he said didn't he say he turns 50 this year? Whereas Togo Hesada, I believe, is in his early 20s. So a very young and talented driver versus one who's been around the block a few times, but they both seem quite even on speed.
And, you know, that you bring that up, they're in the same relative time zone area. I wonder what the caffeine difference consuming is between the two.
Exactly. I have no idea what the answer is, but maybe we'll have to ask them afterwards, because that is a good question. It's something like, I think, close to midnight around there that these drivers over on the Eastern Hemisphere are usually having to be up and racing. That was a good exit from Togo, the Japanese driver, closing in on Tixier, but not quite close enough.
And this section of the track, call it Sector 1, the first handful of corners, it's actually where Togo Hisada lost the lead on that opening lap. So I know that he remembers exactly where he placed his car, where he got out of rhythm with the racing line, and we'll see if he actually applies it to Seb Tixier later in the race, because when I look at this first, call it 5-7 corners, there is so much area for a driver to simply screw up.
This definitely seems like a tricky track, so yeah, I'm not surprised that we've seen a few mistakes throughout. As we check back in with Tolman once again. This is behind Bjorn Ackerman. Now, I believe, wasn't Ackerman behind him before? I thought these roles were reversed.
You were correct. So it looks like that multicolored number 16 has, in fact, moved into what is 8th place now, because we've had a couple cars drop down. But great run for Bjorn. Up a couple positions from where he qualified. And honestly, typically, we see Bjorn as one of our bigger movers every single race, and I kind of like his driving style because he's never willing to kind of shy away from an opportunity. He always lets it hang out.
Down to the braking once again, looking to blow it up before they get to Caro. You could see how they tighten up, but we're back to Jordan in the meantime. And he's got the likes of Eugenio Massa in front of him. Now, Massa's exactly where he started in 19th, but Jordan has gained one. Let's see if he can make it 2 here pretty soon, as they will fly down the back stretch now. John Van Dorn also in behind them, but not close enough to be a threat, at least at this stage. Back over to Tolman. We're side by side. He fights back on Ackerman, but he's on the outside on the entry into one, and he has to give way.
Ackerman all over that apex curb, really using all of the track. And from what we saw out of Nicola Kaki earlier, I think as long as you are aware of where those track limits are and how much you can cut, go ahead and take advantage of it. But just be careful as we jump back up. It looks like Togo Hisada is trying to pull some over-unders.
In fact, he did it pretty darn well. He almost has the overlap, but he's on the wrong side of the track coming into Tramonto. He is better on the brakes into there, but coming off the corner, just sliding in behind Seb Tixier. He's not quite got it done. He does get a little bit of a better exit, and now they're going to have to navigate these fast right-hand kinks. No, they won't. I think Togo thought better of that scenario.
Yeah, but Seb Tixier was way off the track right there. I wonder if he's going to get a slowdown. Now he's way wide. Togo Hisada right up the inside takes away the lead, and I firmly believe that was simply the number 6. I think he's given away a slowdown.
He was. I checked as you said that, and indeed he had that furled black flag, so he had to give the time back, which meant he also had to give up the position. Nieva starting to close because of that fierce little battle and that problem from Seb Tixier. It's now down to less than a second to 3rd place. The more these two tangle, the more they make it a 3-car fight.
Oh, and a little bit wide from each of those drivers there, so that really makes Togo have to check up, and Seb Tixier does the right thing. He doesn't run into the back of our competitor, but with just them scrapping, this has breathed new life into that 3rd place car. Jorge Nieva says thank you very much. He was 2.2 seconds plus behind this battle. Now he's involved in it.
And he was not resting on his laurels. He set the fastest lap of the race that time, trying to catch them. So that worked out perfectly for him. Nieva is now right on the gearbox of Seb Tixier. These three have been kind of the protagonists of that F1 championship the last, almost 2 or 3 years at this stage, the way that they've been taking so many victories out there. As we watch Hisada try to now play defense, he's on the opposite end of things at this point, having to watch his mirrors, try to keep the 6 behind.
I absolutely am loving what I'm seeing out of Togo Hisada and the driving this lap, simply because I thought he was overshooting the braking zones, and look at how it gets so stacked up behind him. Tixier down the inside. He's got the shorter distance around, but now the next corner is going to go back in favor of Togo Hisada, but the Darlington line, the line around the outside, gives him the lead.
Wow, he is not taking no for an answer, but here comes Nieva. He sees this all happening. He thinks maybe he could get a good exit, gets a run, but Togo's going to defend down to the inside of the chicane, and he will keep him back. Now, am I seeing another car start to creep up on the back of them? I think Nicola Kaki is even getting close.
It's gone from 1.7 seconds to less than a second just in the span of the last handful of corners. So you're right, 3 cars now with a 4th caboose on the back end. Jorge Nieva, I still think, is the fastest out of this trio. I was really giving praise to Togo Hisada because in the back half of this section, I thought he was doing the right thing, given the front, or I should say, given the open door to the inside to his competitors, because it allows him to put the power down coming out onto the straightaways. But through some of the tighter sections where you don't have that straightaway, you want the inside line, the short distance line.
Tyson Myers kind of becoming our Kurt Clapper of the race here, starting from the back of the field in that number 4 and all the way up to the top 10 with still more than half the race left to go here. Now he's got about 2.5 seconds up to Ackerman, so he'll have to make up some ground to catch the next car. In fact, I think it's 6 seconds after that ahead of Tolman try and do anything. So there's definitely some gaps that he's now going to have to close on raw speed. In the meantime, Togo Hisada sitting in second, sandwiched between Tixier and Nieva. He might try and attack, but he's got to be careful that he doesn't leave himself vulnerable.
And if you guys are unfamiliar with these names up at the front, just watch, especially these front 2 white cars. They race each other every single week. They will put the car in some peculiar positions, but they always leave each other room. And if there's going to be contact made, it usually ends in tears on the last lap. So wait right here until lap number 21. I think it's going to stay like this the entire back half of the race.
As we come back onto the main straight, well, speaking of Kurt Clapper, we've actually got him here today. I failed to notice that before. He's sitting in 13th spot. I think Matthew Maudsley and Marco Salgado just swapped positions in front of him. Marco now back up into 11th.
It's a good battle here, just right in the middle of the field. It's 11th, 12th, 13th that we're watching here. And Kurt Clapper, you were just mentioning kind of his doppelganger out there, Tyson Meyer. And I think Kurt actually qualified today. So we're not seeing the big mover out of this number 14 car like we typically do.
That's why I didn't realize he wasn't here. He was out of position at the start of the race compared to what he usually does. But I mean, holding his own now. 13th is not too shabby. Tends to be about where we see him wind up in most races, unless there's a lot of attrition. So we'll see if he can maybe climb a little bit higher than that, especially with cars so close. Roberto Pongrazzi doing his best drift impression here in the Italian countryside.
Yes, white number 24 has had a few extracurricular moments that we've seen throughout the replays, but this is jumping back up to our lead battle, and as you can see, nothing has really changed. If anything, the 4th place car has kind of dropped out that little bit, but just more posturing down the front straightaway. The 2nd place car of Togo Hisada showing the nose, Seb Tixier closing the door. I have a feeling it's going to be this chess game of who wants to lead, who wants to be in the slipstream, and where are the mistakes going to be made.
And this also will play a part in the statistics battle as well. Hisada has 13 wins, Tixier has 12. He's trying to get it back to a tie with Togo and be even on number of wins. Now, surprisingly, despite both of them having multiple championships now at this point and having basically almost locked out the F1 title for the past couple years, these two are still, I think, barely cracked into the top 10 of most wins. Like I said, 13 and 12 wins each, whereas you get up to our top 3, Claridge on 95, Dudignon 57, and then Topi Cortiniemi is the next one down at only 27.
It's still impressive what they do out there on the racetrack, and I would love to see some of those names definitely come out here and maybe show these guys kind of what some speed is like. Maybe they'd be surprised at how fast some of these quote-unquote newcomers are, Joe.
Well, Mick is almost always watching, so Mick, if you're out there, I'm sure you'd be willing to chime in and tell him what's what. Just can't get to his rig at the moment. Togo Hisada, good run. In fact, he's cutting across the track to try and pull that slipstream on Tixier down into Del Parco. Just can't quite make anything happen into this chicane. Still, he gets another good run like that, like right here, he might get a good opportunity.
Is there enough of a lunge? He's certainly putting the car there. Almost contact between the two. But now look at the power down coming out of Togo Hisada. The track's going to bend back to the left in favor of Seb Tixier. Watch out for Jorge Nieva, but I believe Togo Hisada is going to hang on to it.
9 laps to go, and yet he is getting fierce, but he's going to have to fight hard because going deep just ahead of him, all the way off course, Seb Tixier brakes way too late. Hisada, despite a bump from behind by Nieva, will retake the lead. That was a frantic moment.
I think the nicest guy in sim racing, Jorge Nieva, just gifted a position to Seb Tixier and also kind of let Togo Hisada get away with one. They were way out of position and braking there. And now you see he's not even going to try to make a lunge on Seb Tixier. I think that this blue and orange #1 car, he is totally content to sit in 3rd place. However, he's probably not too happy with that red #2 creeping up in his mirror.
Well, and you make a good point that maybe this is the weakness that he's got. And we'll talk about that in a bit as Tyson Meyer is going to get another one. Bjorn Ackerman this time disposed of, unless he gets a slowdown penalty for going a little bit wide there. Looks like he is clean. And down in Dakaro, he's now got the job done. But I was going to say that Nieva, in comparison to Tixier, Hisada, Kaki, those are all drivers that are unafraid to get very aggressive when it calls for it. Whereas, like you said, Jorge can maybe be a bit too polite sometimes. I wonder if he's going to have to stick his neck out a bit more.
We've literally seen Jorge Nieva pull over on the side of the racetrack to give away a very good position because the driver deserved it. That's what type of driver Jorge Nieva is. Now, don't let that confuse you and say, oh, you know what, he's not going to actually go up there and race. When this guy is confident on the track that he knows he can go out there and win at, he knows he's got the speed to go out there and compete, he will put the nose in there. But I think he's much more patient and level-headed, kind of like this guy that we're watching here in this red #11, Cam Porter.
And Cam, it looks like he's actually racing Kurt Clapper. Oh, did Gary Ho have a problem? There he is off course now. I think that was out of Quercia. He's going to get it accelerating away. Now he's in 7th. So if he did, oh no, and the car does not look like it's in good shape. He goes way wide at Tremonto.
And I'm not exactly sure what happened. Looks like we're going to get a GSRC replay. Let's listen. I don't see any smoke out the back end or anything like that, but all of a sudden just way off pace. And even right now, I'm watching them live, and the car's not happy.
I'm going to wager maybe it's a hardware problem. Wheel or pedals maybe having issues, because that's very strange that he would be going so slow, and he still is slow. He's off the course to allow others by. Let's see if he actually comes into pit lane. The entry will be coming up here pretty soon. There he goes. Yeah, I'd wager that something is wrong with the wheel or pedals as he just kind of trickles it in down to his stall.
And you know, the mechanic in me sees the steering wheel straight, relatively straight. He's not fighting the car going down pit lane. So I agree with you, Joe. I think that maybe even not enough fuel in the car.
Oh, that could be too. It'd be strange that he'd make it this far, though.
Yeah.
That'd be a very odd one. We'll see what happens, see if we could get a confirmation of what the issue was a little bit later. Back to our battle for the lead. It is Hisada, Tixier, Nieva, your order. And you ask and you shall receive. Mick Claridge sent me a message. He says, I'm praying Jorge can win a few championships while I'm away because Togo and Seb are getting close to my record. I think he means a number of championships. So he's cheering on that #1 car because I think he wants his crown not to get taken away here.
Is that a bit of the Tanya Harding method? strategy? Hire somebody to take out your competitors?
I'm not sure that he hired him.
Well, neither did Tanya.
Allegedly. Jorge Nieva here. Let's see if he's willing to try and help out Mick Claridge. And if he can finally get that long sought after title, he's come close many a times. In fact, I'll have to check and see how many times he's been in the top 3 in the points. And Gary Ho is back out on track. So whatever the issue was, he's fixed it.
And, you know, it could be a rig problem. It could be a technical problem. It could have been a fuel problem. For all we know, it could have been a big fluffy dog jumping up on the computer and he had to go readjust something. So, yeah, maybe we'll find out later.
Down into Quercia once again. Door has been left open by Hesada. In fact, he's going to go way too deep. Seb Tixier is going to be able to get through. Meanwhile, Nieva says, now's my chance. He is going to manage to overtake Togo Hesada. He's into second. What does he do from here? Does he try to turn up the wick and pressurize our leader?
I like this opportunity for Nieva because he just found himself in second place. He doesn't have to try to pass 2 for 1, which, quite honestly, might have been the easier route with Seb and Togo always battling each other. But I think this is a good opportunity that if he has that run on Seb Tixier, we might see the lunge. We might see the fists come out and try to battle for that win.
Joe, do you have your tinfoil hat nearby?
I do. I always have one made.
Mick tells me and Jorge are in discussions weekly, so add that to the fire.
Yeah, let me get the antennas out. I'll try to pick up on those conversations.
Back to Tyson Meyer in the meantime, sitting in the 8th spot. He's past Ackerman we saw some time ago, but despite passing 14 cars, 15 might be a little too far away. We'll see if he's quick enough to try and catch Tolman 2 seconds up the road.
The data shows between the two, it's extremely close, only about 0.2 of a second difference between Tyson's last lap and Connor's last lap. So if it stays that way, it will be difficult, but you know what? 5 laps is plenty of opportunity to make mistakes.
That's Robert Plumley in the yellow machine trying to play defense on Jim Matson. This is a battle for 14th position onto the main straights as they both try to take as much of that inside line as they can. In fact, thought for sure Matson would get a slowdown penalty for how far to the inside he went, but no problems as he holds the throttle to the floor, but that's not going to get him that 14th spot quite yet.
You mentioned the potential slowdown in these drivers, you know, taking advantage of the extra racetrack that's out there. It kind of plays into the story point that we mentioned. This is the first time that these drivers have raced these cars here on this circuit. So the more you know, the better off you are.
The floating star flies by. Let's see how much they know by the end of this race and where will that help them next time they visit as well. Back to Eugenio Massa coming down into Del Parco, and he is not going to be able to take the spot despite sticking his nose in pretty deeply there. He's battling for 20th position with Thomas Willershausen here farther down in the field.
Also, I believe that's Harvey, the 3rd car in line, just right behind. That's kind of the maroon number 21 with those nice chrome stripes on there. So Massa not only trying to get into the top 20, but got to protect himself there from that number 21 car directly behind. I do love this vintage community. You know, it doesn't matter if you're up front with Tixier, Nieva, Hesada, Kaki, or if you're in the middle with Clapper, Salgado, Cam Porter, or if you're a little bit further back here with Willershausen, Massa, and Harnvey. No matter where you are, you've got some friends to race with.
And they might have more friends to race with soon. Nieva deep on the brakes into Tremonto. Can't get to the inside of Tixier there. These guys are actually catching that 3-way battle. That is going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons.
So let me ask you, Joe, if you were, pardon me, on the back of that battle, would you gladly accept more friends in the case of it's the leaders? I think I'd be a little nervous.
I would absolutely be nervous. I'd be watching them carefully, but I'd also kind of see when they're going to catch me and see if I can tuck in behind one of them pretty quickly. Once those blue flags are out and they're not required They are only informational for these drivers, so they don't have to leap out of the way like modern F1. But if one of the drivers decides to be polite and they kind of pull off to the side, you can maybe sneak a spot that way.
Look who is getting closer and closer and closer. It is Mr. Consistency, who also has the fast lap of the race, but Togo Asada actually gets into the back of Jorge Nieva. So Togo with the aggressiveness, now he's going to look to the inside. Nieva's actually going to close the door on that white number 3. We're seeing the fight come out of him today.
I love seeing that. Nieva is unwilling to give it up as easily. He knows there is a championship on the line, and these are two of the drivers he is likely going to have to tussle with in that points battle. 3 laps to go now for them as they fly into Quercia. They're getting ever closer. They are maybe about a lap away from catching that 3-way fight.
I think that the biggest difference between the front 3 cars here is that the 2 white cars, they love racing side by side, and to basically keep that momentum up, I feel like Jorge is actually the fastest car out of the 3. However, when he gets put side by side, he tends to get pushed out on the outside, taken advantage of, and that's just kind of due to that aggressive nature of those other 2 drivers. I think if things stay calm, Jorge Nieva's got a great opportunity.
Here they come. Oh, that was very deep there from Seb. He pulls it back in line just in time. But look at that. There they are, just in front of him. Now they can see them up ahead. They know it's coming, but who is going to play their cards right? 2 to go at the line now.
Looks like the lap cars are going to be on either side of the racetrack, so the leaders are going to have to navigate their way around. Now the next one pulls way off to driver's left, all of them. Togo Asada's actually going to make contact. The lap car gets into the left rear, take him out of the race.
Oh, it's Tobias Arnve, and that is Cocky. Cocky runs into the side just lightly. I think he lost the nose of the car because of it. Asada whips it around, but I wonder if, okay, he gets it going. I wondered if maybe he damaged the suspension with that contact.
And 2 huge slides out of our leader, Tixier and Nieva, as Jorge is really closing up the gap to our leader, and we're also dealing with more lap traffic.
That's Massa. He's going to step aside, allow them through, and they've got no more traffic coming up ahead, so we'll check out the replay. Joey, you've got the experience, but you've also got opinions because of that experience. What do you think of this one?
It's really tough. So the number 21 saw the lead group. He was off of the racing line, but then he took his normal brake marker there into what is turn 2, turn 3. And when you're off the racing line, you're going to slide, you're going to lock up, and unfortunately plowed into one of our leaders. That one is square on the shoulders of the lap car.
Yeah, he obviously was at the apex, but I'm pretty sure Togo did not expect him to be at that apex at the time. This means it is now mano a mano. Seb Tixier and Jorge Nieva get 1 lap toe-to-toe to try and decide who will win this race.
And remember, it's going to be more aggression out of the first driver leading this race, consistency out of Nieva. And look at the line difference. You already see him trying to capitalize, trying to force him to the inside. Now Nieva's going to take to the outside. He's going to be way too deep, but it's all about putting the power down. Can he stay in the slipstream of this white and blue number 6?
Not enough grip around the outside of Rio. He gets in back behind him. Doesn't look like he's able to do anything here. Who knows, though? Coming down into the braking. Look at the defense from Seb Tixier, but he's very shallow into the corner. In the meantime, trying to slide around the middle of that hairpin. Jorge Nieva maybe loses a bit too much time. Asada has had to come into pit lane. He must have actually gotten too much damage to carry on. Out of Tramonto now. The opportunities are slipping through his fingers. Can Nieva manage something in the last few turns?
Tixier took the autocross line through turn 10 there, and it worked out for him. He did get the power down. Nieva's play of taking the long way around to try to carry the momentum didn't work out. It's up to Seb Tixier if he's going to make a mistake now.
He's right on top of him. Last chance is going to be in the final corner of Misano, but oh, that's just a little too much wheel spin for Jorge Nieva. Seb Tixier, he didn't lead this whole thing, but when it counted, he withstood the pressure. And Sebastian Tixier gets win number 13 of his GPL career here.
Nieva stands number 2 on the podium, and look at who is going to finish in 3rd place. Xavier Sanchez, who we didn't cover much, and he's actually got Gary Ho right on the back. Gary's a couple laps down, but a great podium for Xavier.
Snuck his way in. Excellent run from the number 5. He actually had to fight on that last lap from what I'm seeing with Nicola Kaki to take that podium away. And credit to Steve Morris. I don't think we frequently see that car in the top 5.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, and up a few positions from where he finished. Tyson Meyer, I believe, is going to be our biggest mover as we watch the rest of the cars come across the start-finish line. Looks like Tyson Meyer went up plus 15 from where he started.
Kurt Clapper will beat Cam Porter there in the battle of the midfield, but looks like we're going to see, about 18 cars finish on the lead lap of this one. The rest of them kind of just coming through. Hisada unable to officially finish this race after he took repairs. Not sure why he did that, considering he was so close to the end. I think he would have finished a few positions higher, Joey.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it comes down to how the championship points are structured with the drop weeks and knowing what his finishes are.
All right, so as we see Alan Graham come through, I think that's going to wrap up the race, but not our coverage. We've got our finishing order here for this one, and it is Seb Tixier who takes the win over Jorge Nieva. The distance between them at the line, 0.9 of a second. It was rarely more than that all race long. Sanchez sneaks into the podium for 3rd as Nicola Kaki going to be ruining that just in 4th. Steve Morris, an excellent top 5 for him over Connor Tolman. You talk about his progress. He finished 6th after starting 9th. Tyson Meyer didn't set a qualifying time, went from 22nd to 7th today. Bjorn Ackerman was 8th, and then Marco Salgado was only able to get back to 9th after he had his slip up. Kurt Clapper rounds out the top 10.
Then we've got Cam Porter here in 11th place, up 6 positions. We kind of clicked on him a few times. He definitely had a busy race out there. Matthew Maudsley in 12th. Robert Plumley finishing in 13th back here. A good race for Robert, up 5 positions. Roberto Pengrazzi in 14th. Jem Matson in 15th place. Alan Graham here in 16th. Jonathan Jordan, 17th. John Van Dorn in 18th, and then comes the first of the cars 1 lap down. Togo Hisada, unfortunately, that did not see the checkered flag. Eugenio Massa in 20th, in 20th, and then Thomas Willershausen, 21st, Gary Ho, 22nd, Tobias Harnvey, 23rd, and Jan Steven in 24th position.
We said we were heading into the unknown with this being the first time this series raced here, Joey. What's your big takeaway from how this track is with the 49s?
You have to be patient, right? I think the track temperature didn't help the drivers today, right? Being 120 plus on the track, it just means extremely low grip. So if you want to make a move, you don't necessarily have the confidence that the grip is going to be there in the brake zone to make that lunge, or even just the confidence to put your right foot down on the accelerator to try to get the launch out of the corner. So I liked the way it raced. It's a little bit more like an autocross course where it's technical, and the drivers, it's up to where they place the car on the racing line to capitalize on the important corners. It was actually pretty fun to watch.
Oh, I had a blast. I'd love them to come back if the rest are going to be like this. And Seb Tixier, I think, had some fun out there. Let's see how he feels about it, taking win number 13. Seb, you're now tied with Togo on the all-times wins list. I don't know how much you pay attention to that, but you certainly were paying attention to Togo this race. Seb, do you have a copy?
I know that Seb is usually in VR too, so I think between and I deal with this all the time. Whenever you swap in VR and then swap back to Discord, it auto changes those voice inputs. It's always such a pain in the butt.
Oh, I saw him queue up. Sebastian, do you have a copy? Thought maybe we'd hear him chatting, so go ahead.
And trust me, Joe, I've been in professional racing for a long time. You think that radios are relatively simple. How long have we had them? No, this is just how it goes with radios.
Oh, trust me, I know, because during my real world commentary, we have the radio sometimes piped in and sometimes not piped in, and it's always a question mark. Are we hearing race control or are we not? But anyways, I know we're doing some work with Sebastian behind the scenes here to try and see if we can get him hooked up and ready to go. He's returned. Let's see if this works now. Sebastian?
Hello.
We got him. Bonjour, my friend. Another victory. You and Togo and Jorge with an incredible fight for today's race. That was amazing.
I totally over-triggered this one. I just joined started to practice at 8:30. But I drive a lot on this track because I like it a lot. I think Togo was very careful at the start because of the last race, so I kind of took advantage of that at the beginning. But after that, honestly, Jorge and Togo were both faster than me. But I think with my setup, I have maybe a little advantage on the braking, because all the braking on Misano are a bit weird, so I could manage to stay inside, and I kind of play a bit of Gandalf, you shall not pass at the end, but I'm really happy with the victory before going to holiday.
Yeah, that looked like you had to really get the elbows out to fend off Jorge. Now, Joey brought up an interesting point during the broadcast. You and Togo kind of have to burn the midnight oil to compete in this series. How much caffeine does it take to get you ready to go for these races?
It's okay. For me, it's a bit 1 hour sooner than Togo. I'm in Singapore, so it's like start at 9:30. So 9:30 is still okay. I mean, I'm getting old. I'm 50 in like 2 weeks, but 9:30 is still okay.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so not as late as I thought for you. Well, we also mentioned that this was the first time we had raced at this track for this series. What's your take on Misano? Do you want to come back?
Yeah, I really like this track. Also, I'm a MotoGP fan, so for me, I really like to race on this track because it's a MotoGP track. The off track are a little bit weird because I think they use MotoGP rules, which is all the curbs are part of the track, and the green part after the curb is considered off track. So as long as you have two wheels on the curbs, it's okay, but you can be the outside wheel, so you have like two wheels on the green and two wheels on the curbs. It's a bit weird for cars, this kind of track, but when you get used to it, you have to be careful because basically it's on some turns, it's like there's no off track, there is clear slowdown. I got one at the beginning, I think a lap 3, something like that. So, but I really like this track. It's very technical. The brakings, you have to compromise some turns and some have various radius, and I really like it. It's very technical.
Well, we enjoyed it too. Congratulations on the win, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more this season.
Thank you. Bye.
Seb Tixier, our victor here today. The man who came in behind him in second was Jorge Nieva. Let's see if Joey has caught up with him.
Jorge Nieva, congratulations on the podium finish today.
Thank you, guys.
Now, I thought that you were the fastest car out there between the top three. Is that kind of what you were feeling as well behind the wheel?
Well, I don't know. Maybe at this track I was closer than in other tracks, but I still think that Togo and Seb were a bit faster, but with the slipstream it was easy to follow them, but not to overtake because I don't have the skills to overtake. I have to wait until the guy in front makes a mistake and I can pass.
Well, quite honestly, from watching it, I thought you drove a terrific race. You were very patient in third place. The opportunity came to you to grab second. You did it. And I know that you might not think you're faster than those other two guys, but the data shows wrong. Fastest lap of the race, number one, Jorge Nieva, a 36.7. How do you feel about that?
That was all the slipstream. I assure you that the toe helped a lot in that time.
Well, a very modest, the nicest guy in sim racing is what I call you. Thank you so much for coming out and racing and providing this awesome action.
Thank you, Joey. Have a good weekend.
Well, that was the driver of the number one, finishing in second place, Jorge Nieva.
We've got a quick chat with Togo Hisada. He wound up 19th in the end. Togo, it was a fantastic battle, but we have to ask the question, what caused you to retire the car? It looked like it was able to carry on, and there was, I think, only 2 laps to go.
No. I did a black flag for the too much incident points at that point.
Oh.
In the 4X, yeah. I did a contact with Jorge twice. Yeah, first in Seb going too wide in turn 4, turn 6. Just after the long back stretch, and the Jorge pounced me under the 4X. And again, sometimes I take it 4X, and already I did 15s, I think. Yeah. Then that contacts. So I have already black flagged, and my left suspension, my left front, and my right rear suspension is damaged. So just undrivable for me. Yeah.
That's a shame. And here we had mentioned the incident points and didn't even consider that could have caused you to have to pit in. Realistically, do you think you could have beaten Seb and Jorge today? It looked very evenly matched.
Yeah, just in the qualifying, Seb is so fast, but I did not expect Jorge that fast. Yeah, in the racing session, in the race pace, yeah, he's very consistent and not making any big mistakes. So he is always faster than qualify in the race. So I did it. I have no idea who win this race. Just very much and very enjoyed the battle.
We enjoyed the battle too. Commiserations on the finish, and best of luck next week at Bristol.
Thank you.
Togo Hisada finishing 19th. One last one to chat with. I think Joey has caught up with a familiar face around here, Cam Porter.
Yeah, Cam, and this is a perfect question to ask you because you are always racing with us. What do you think about the Lotus 49 combo and this racetrack of Misano?
I really enjoyed that race today. That was really fun. Had a great battle early on, a little quiet in the middle, and then near the end, Kurt and I had a good scrap there. I thought if I just had maybe a couple more laps, I might have been able to get close enough to make a move, but he drove a really good race and didn't really make any mistakes. So good drive, Kurt, and had a fun one today.
Since you enjoyed it, real fast, what did you like about this combination?
Oh, just I feel like it's got a good combination of challenging corners and straightaways, good passing opportunities. It's nice and wide, lots of racing room, and I think it provides great racing.
It's always fun to actually be racing with your buddies out there. You said it was a little bit lonely in the middle, but you're right. I went back and looked at your race. The front and the back, it was action-packed, including dodging that wreck there at the very beginning. I noticed that one, so good job. But thanks for coming out and racing with us. Anybody you want to give a shout-out to, Cam?
Shout out to Seb for a great drive today, a great win, and we'll see you again next week.
Well, that was the driver of that red number 11, Cam Porter.
Which is going to wrap us up for today. So we want to thank the Lotus 49 community as a whole for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the team today, Daniel, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Like we said, next time out, Bristol Motor Speedway. That's right. They're going oval racing, and I think this is the first time they'll be going to Bristol, to this fantastic short track. That'll be Saturday, July 20th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts, because up next this afternoon, the IMSA Vintage Series goes to Willow Springs at 1 p.m. Eastern. That is going to be an absolute hoot. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.